trial. Trump is expected to focus on border security and the economy, specifically inflation. A new survey finds even among upper-income Americans, those making six-figure salaries, 1 in 3 now worry about paying their bills.
The Supreme Court will deliver more rulings from...
Okay, and we're live on the video live stream this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Our guest this morning is Dr. Marco Tomasi. He is the executive director of the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center in St. Joseph, and we're going to be talking with him today about the museum, the cultural center, some of the things that they're doing there. We're going to talk to you about your background in a few moments, but thanks for joining us. How long have you been at the Museum and Cultural Center?
I joined the organization in November of 2022.
Okay.
So about a year and a half.
Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from St. Joe.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, because then you know things. Did you ever think you were going to be in charge of a museum?
No. But that's pretty much par for the course of my career. Every step of the way, it's like I never envisioned this is what I'd be doing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That sounds like an interesting path. What were you doing before this?
Before this, I was running a small consulting firm. We were virtual based, so we were spread out across the country and working with companies from across the country.
Okay. Consulting in, do you want to say?
Oh, we were just doing business consulting, performance management, safety, training, organizational change.
Excellent. Okay. We'll talk about that and more in just a moment. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Tell a friend recommended Navage. Navage offers immediate drug-free congestion relief, flushing your nasal passages with refreshing saline and sucking out mucus, germs, and other airborne irritants. Don't live in misery this cold season. Use Navage so you can breathe easier, sleep better, and feel your best right away.
The biggest thing Navage has done has completely cleaned out my nasal passages. It was from the first use. I was able to just clear out anything that was stopping me from breathing correctly. Navage helps me clear the way, literally clear the way, for me to operate better in the rest of my life.
Experience the Navage difference yourself. Navage is available at Navage.com or at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E.
WSJM News now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
And good morning. Thanks for joining us on the WSJM Morning Show. We'll continue our conversation in just a moment with our guest today, Dr. Marco Tomasi from the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center in St. Joseph. Learn a little bit about his background and what they're doing at the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center in St. Joseph. In local news that we're covering today, the city of Buchanan is preparing for an $18.2 million downtown infrastructure project. At their regular meeting this week, the city commission was briefed by bond counsel Roger Sweats on the process of securing United States Department of Agriculture low-interest loans for the work. The city will seek 2 loans from the USDA totaling $16.2 million. It will have to settle some outstanding bonds to get the loans, according to officials.
So in total, there will be 3 approvals needed: the bond ordinance and then the loan resolution for the water loan and the one for the sewer loan.
Sweat said the loans will be repaid over 4 decades.
These are at very low interest rates being subsidized by the USDA. And so the combination of that 40-year repayment schedule that you have and then those very low interest rates at 1.375 is going to offer a lot lower debt service than if the city had to go out to the bond market to do these projects today.
The projects will include the replacement of water mains that date back 100 years in some cases. It will also cover sewer work and streetscaping downtown. The matter will come back to the City Commission for a vote on the actual resolutions, and infrastructure work, they say, could start in the fall. The overall project is expected to continue through 2027. 5 fugitives are now in police custody following a sweep by the Van Buren County Sheriff's Department this week. WSJM's Andrew Green has this report.
The department says detectives from its investigations and narcotics division rounded up individuals with outstanding warrants on Tuesday. Among them were a Gobles woman held in contempt of court for failure to pay child support, a Hartford man charged with receiving and concealing stolen property and drug possession, a Gobles man charged with filing a false police report and resisting and obstructing, a Mattawan man charged with drug possession, and a Lawton woman charged with aggravated assault. The Sheriff's Department says during its sweep, it did recover a stolen 2010 Kawasaki motorcycle. All the arrested suspects were taken to the Van Buren County Jail. Andrew Green, WSJM News.
Coming back to downtown St. Joseph this summer will be the Brown Bag Concert Series and the Friday Night Concert Series. St. Joseph Today's Daniel Crevier tells us the Brown Bag concerts at the Howard Band Shell will be held each Wednesday starting July 17th from 12 to 1. They will feature a variety of musical styles.
We have 7 weeks, so 7 different artists will be joining us. Most of them are going to be solo or duos, but we've got anything from like classic rock to the 50s, 60s, 70s. We've got a jam band, we've got a little bit of jazz, some indie, and then some children's music as well.
The concerts are free to attend, and Crevier says they're a great way for someone to spend their lunch break. Meanwhile, the Friday night concerts will resume July 19th at 7 p.m. Crevier says during COVID, the concerts went away, and people are glad to have them back.
We took a break in 2020, and then the Friday night concerts came back in 21 and 22, but on a limited series. So we had run those just on like Love Local weekends. So I believe we just did them 4 times in 2021 and 2022. And then in 23, that's when we brought back like a longer series, and we were able to bring back the Wednesday Brown Bag concerts as well.
The Friday night concerts feature larger bands, including PT and the Cruisers, the Municipal Jazz Band, and the Southwest Michigan Symphony Orchestra. Those are also free to attend. Crevier adds everyone is also invited to the Wednesday night market, which will be held each Wednesday starting on July 17. The market will feature goods from artisans, farmers, and more from 4 to 8 p.m. in Court Place Plaza across from Silver Harbor Brewing. And finally, the Village of Baroda is gearing up to celebrate its annual 3rd of July celebration next week ahead of the holiday. Thanks to the Baroda Firemen's Association, the village fireworks are put on each year through generous donations. Baroda Fire Chief Chris Birch said the department is excited to put the event on once again and bring something exciting to the community.
As the fire chief, growing up around here my whole life, it really is true to my heart. I know everybody really enjoys this display. We try to make it bigger and better every year within our financial means, and it means a lot to me to see these people come out here and really enjoy themselves at this event.
This year, the fire department raised over $30,000 to support the fireworks display for the celebration. Birch said they're looking for further ways to advance their fundraising efforts. New this year, the department is going to be charging $10 a carload for premium parking. Birch also noted the department and village is looking to have funds for a year in advance in case something happens.
But we're trying to work to where we can have the year in advance, so we can get a kind of a nest egg built so that we can move forward, and if something happens, we don't have to worry about it.
The Baroda Village fireworks will be held at dusk on July 3rd behind the Baroda American Legion Post 345. The Legion will also have live music starting at 7 p.m. For more information, you can visit barodatownship.org and look for information on the fireworks. That's a look at some of the local news that we're covering for you today from the WSJM Newsroom. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's the WSJM Morning Show, and our guest in the studio is Dr. Marco Tomasi from the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center. We'll have our conversation with him. We'll start that now on the video live stream, and then we'll bring you back on the radio here in a few moments to talk about that as well after we get Always Learning with Barry and Risa. It is the WSJM Morning Show.
Are you a business owner worried about the safety of your sensitive data? Look no further than Midwest Data Depot, your local secure offsite backup storage solution.
Major League Baseball from Wednesday, Brandon Marsh had 4 hits, including a home run, and drove in 4 as the Phillies beat the Tigers 6-2 to take 2 of the 3-game series. The Tigers are back in action tonight at the LA Angels at 9:40.
I'm telling you, they give me too many buttons to push over here, Dr. Tomasi. How are you doing today?
Oh, pretty well.
Oh, good. Sorry, we have to reset in just a moment. For those who've joined the video live stream, please introduce yourself.
My name is Marco Tomasi. I'm the executive director of the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center on Main Street in St. Joseph. Born and raised in St. Joe, and very happy to be trying to share St. Joe and Benton Harbor's history with local community members, visitors, everyone. We've got a guest book that we track visitors who come in. Well, they self-report where they're from, and we're getting people from around the world coming to St. Joe.
Wow.
And so it's exciting to share that history with them.
That's outstanding. We want to talk about how you do that and some of the whys behind it as well. But first, let's talk about you.
Okay.
So born and raised here?
Born and raised here.
Okay. Have you been here the entire time?
No.
Okay.
Born and raised here. After high school, went off to college.
Okay.
Then went off and started my career elsewhere. And about 10 years ago, my wife and I decided that we really wanted to come home. I met my wife here, and we had at that time we had 3 small kids.
Okay.
We were out in Washington, D.C. Wonderful place to visit.
Yeah.
Horrible place to live and
It
raise
is.
children.
Yeah, it is.
Let's go to dinner. Well, so everyone else wants to go to dinner at the same time. Plus, whether it's 5 miles or 17 miles, it's an hour and a half to get there.
You're right.
So the opportunity popped up to start a new business venture. It was virtual based, and that presented the opportunity to move back home, work from my home office. Kind of like everything we did during COVID, I was doing 2014.
Hold on, because we have something in common. We both lived in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And so tell me, what did you do back there?
I actually was a defense contractor. I worked in the intelligence community.
That is so cool.
Yes.
All right, we got to talk more about that. So, I mean, tell us what you can tell us without killing us.
Right. I had started out doing performance improvement in organizational systems and management, and opportunity popped up at a local airport. They had a new security system.
Well, Reagan?
No, I was actually down in Tallahassee. This ended up being my dissertation for my doctorate. And they had this new system, and all this money, TSA grants, post 9/11.
Yeah.
And then I went in and met with them, and they had a great process diagram, and it had one box with a question mark. I'm like, what's that? And they go, oh, that's the human operator.
Oh.
So like, I can help you with that. So I worked with them on that, but because it was Homeland Security related and terrorism and everything was going on, it really got the attention of folks in DC. They recruited me to come up. And because I understood human behavior, I had a background in clinical, I had a background in organizations, and usually in organizational management and performance improvement, we want to improve performance. They're like, well, okay, there's some organizations we want to help. There's other ones we don't want to see succeed. Where are the weak spots so we can pressure those? So that kind of understanding, and the fact that I started out in engineering way long ago, and I understood that, got a security clearance and started working as an intelligence analyst.
That's fascinating. What's the most interesting thing that you learned that you can share?
That I can share.
Right. Well, I mean, stuff you can't share, we're not going to tell anybody.
Right.
Even though that we're on the internet.
Yeah. Honestly, probably the biggest thing that I share when I go to universities and they ask, like, what do we do if we want to get a security clearance and work and do that kind of work? It's like, don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Like, you guys might think, oh, I had a joint as a freshman. No one's going to know. They're going to find out. So behave yourself when you're off at school. Just because your parents aren't watching, someday it might come back to haunt you. Because if you want that security clearance, you want the cool job with all the cool stories that you can't tell. You have to have a clean background.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, because you may have, even if they don't find out initially on the security background check, they may find somebody, or you may have somebody in your past who knows what you did, and then all of a sudden they have something over you.
They dig so deep, and they go talk to who your character references, and then they'll ask for more references. They keep going out through those connections. So they'll find out, and really it's all about, can they trust you? And while it's legal in Michigan now, it's not legal at the federal level. So they want to see, are you breaking laws, and are you going to lie about it?
Right.
Because if you lie about it, then it's like, oh, they can't trust you with anything else.
Yeah. So living out in the Washington, D.C., how long were you in D.C.?
Was there, about 8 years.
Okay. So you got to drink from the information water fountain, where information is coming in fast. There's a lot of it, and it's in real time. How did you find that transition when you came back home?
It took a while to transition back, but even with my kids, I had when we moved back, I had a kindergartner, and she's looking around like, oh, can we go to the zoo? I'm like, well, the zoo's a little bit high. We're gonna go downtown. Oh, well, which line do we take? The orange line, the red line? I'm like, there's no metro here. We just get in the car and go downtown.
Right.
And it's more relaxed.
And the good news is it won't take 2 hours to get 5 miles. Yeah. No, that's great.
So it was transitioning back to that, a lot less, getting back to that kind of beach vibe, less suits, less bow ties.
Yeah. Or are you a bow tie person?
I am a bow tie person. Okay. It comes out of the clinical days of, you go and you wear a bow tie into a clinical setting, you're wearing a noose around your neck. So the bow ties were much safer. They were trendy. I was down in the South, so it fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seersucker suits, how many do you have?
Just one.
Okay. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. Okay. Well, sorry. Thanks for letting us derail there for a moment. So I used to work for a couple of senators U.S. senators from Florida. So we also have that in common of your work in Florida at the time. This is weird. We've never met each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so how did you find your way to the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center?
I was looking for a change. Just the business climate had changed. Obviously, COVID changed a lot of things for clients
Sure.
and everything. And so my wife landed her dream job. And with that, it also came with a little bit more of a pay raise, which
Yeah.
allowed me to dial things back and look at how I can benefit the community I live in, the community I grew up in. And so I started looking around, and around that time, the Heritage was advertising that they needed an executive director. And in speaking with them and doing a little background research, while I am not a historian by training, they needed somebody with organizational management experience, performance improvement, and who could sit down and really help rebuild the inner workings of the organization. COVID hit the Heritage hard. They lost all their staff during that time. And so that the volunteer board were keeping the organization afloat, which they did a fantastic job, but that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And really to grow and keep it going, they needed someone in there on a day-to-day basis, and they needed a staff to keep things going.
And so how long did that, I mean, so you walk in the door, how long does that take to evaluate and understand and start continuous
as soon as you walk through the
improvement?
door, there was a quick evaluation, but
Okay.
it was really there was no employee manual. There was even onboarding. I got an offer letter, called them up, said I accept.
Right.
They said great. Now what? We haven't hired a full-time employee before.
Oh goodness.
So had to help onboard myself.
Yeah.
Had to find an office. A lot of the rooms had been turned into storage. So literally digging out to find furniture and set up an office. So that's what the early days were like.
Okay.
And then start bringing in a team of really great people to surround myself with so that we could work together, all of us doing our part to get the archives going again, get the research going again, start developing exhibits. So, and then there was a little bit of people coming in right after I was hired going, well, where's all the big changes? Where's all the big exhibits?
Right.
It takes time. So now we're starting to see that with new exhibits coming on display, other ones in the works, more events going on. It's getting really exciting around the Heritage because there's always something new. We have a monthly newsletter, and I was looking back at last year for July's because I'm writing July's right now.
Okay.
There was like 3 little articles in it.
Okay.
This one's going to have 12.
Wow.
Of just different things going on, and these are more jam-packed and compound. Like here's a topic about the lighthouse. Okay. But we've got walking tours, we've got public hours, we've got private tours, we have sunset experiences. We just did that last night. It was sold out. We limited to just 6 people every time we do it.
Wow.
But you get to go up, spend about an hour up on the gallery outside the lantern room and watch the sunset. Great for photographers, great for people on a date. You want to go pop the question? That's the place. There's room to get down on one knee because it's only 6 people up there. Or if you just want to do something cool that, I grew up here. I had never been to the top of the lighthouse until I got this job.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. We have folks go, because if you go during public hours, it's $10 to go up. And I had an older gentleman who just threw a fit and said, "It's what? No, that's too much." He paid it, went up there, came down. He said, "Okay, now I get it. That's
understands.
amazing." And then he became one of our docents, one of our tour guides.
Nice.
So he's on the team too.
He found a way to not pay that much and
Right.
get more lighthouse time. Now that's one of the most popular things, right? The lighthouse
Yes.
tours.
Oh yes. We get last summer we had about 7,000 people come and visit the lighthouse.
7,000.
And if you think about it, even like the city of St. Joe, it's part of their logo.
Yeah.
How many organizations around here, the businesses have our lighthouse as their logo? It's quite the draw.
The before I forget, you mentioned the newsletter. Who should sign up for that, and how can they sign up for it?
Who is anyone in the community? If you want to find out what's going on, we are not going to spam you every day.
Yeah.
I usually only send out the monthly newsletter once a month, obviously. And occasionally, if there's something really big, like when we had a debut of a new exhibit, I'll throw that in as a reminder. But if you want to know what's going on at the Heritage, sign up, and you can sign up at our website, which is The Heritage MCC, as in Museum and Cultural Center.org. If go there, there's a drop down menu for newsletters. There's a spot where you can click and subscribe.
Okay. All right. I want to talk more about the events that you have coming up and more about what you've uncovered as you dig through the museum. Because I can't think of a more fun place to dig through and clean out and clean up than a museum.
Yes.
Because you've got probably some really fun stuff there that you've uncovered.
Oh yes, and the archives, it's a treasure trove, and it's really the heart of the museum. It drives the research, it drives the exhibits, everything we do. And I mean, some days it can be a little dangerous because one of the historians go, "Hey, look what I found."
Oh no.
And my office is just an offshoot of the archives. So I'll go in and like, "What'd you find?"
Yeah.
And then it's the rabbit hole you go down of discovery after discovery of things that were in there that maybe weren't cataloged years and years or decades ago correctly, so we didn't even know it was in the system.
Wow.
And it's fascinating. And then there's these connections, and because I'm from here, I've got stories for them. It's
you mentioned also that your wife found her dream job. You want to tell us what that is?
Sure. She is a behavior analyst,
Okay.
board certified, and she works her whole career. She's worked with kids with autism.
Okay.
And doing skill acquisition and training and really getting to the point for most of the ones she works with to get them into mainstream schools. And for this, it was clinic based. So not home based, not in the schools, which have its own challenges. And she and I had both done that work in down in Florida. But this was clinic based, and it's what she calls the itty bitties. Like her clients are usually 1.5 to 2, all the way up to like 7 or 8. The old timers are like 7 or 8 years old.
Funny. Yeah.
So they're tiny, they're cute.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of, just simple things, toilet training, verbal communication, social skills, and she loves it. And so she's I think she's been there about 4 years now.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we're talking with Dr. Marco Tomasi from the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center, and you've got a fascinating background so far. So we'll keep exploring that, but I also want to explore what's happening at the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center. So maybe in a couple of moments we can talk about the exhibits there and the speaker series, and want to learn more about Trivia Night, because I feel like there's a way that we can study and maybe get some answers going in, or know how to be prepared for your question. Who develops the questions?
I do.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back with more in this conversation. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Expert hometown lenders will guide you through the process and take the time to make sure you're ready to become a homeowner. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, looking at a vacation house, or thinking of building, Sturgis Bank can meet your needs. Experience the Sturgis Bank difference. Highly personal service, long-time community support, and a desire to do right by the people we serve. Visit SturgisBank.com to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
And we're talking with Dr. Melinda Gruber from Corewell Health. You're here to talk about a benefit for hospice.
This benefit has been happening in South Haven for over 10 years, and it is a wonderful opportunity for Southwest Michigan to come together to support hospice care here in our community. So it is Saturday, August 3rd. And this year, for the second year, it's going to be at the Michigan Maritime Museum on their beautiful grounds on the Black River in South Haven. Hospice care is generally for people who are likely in the last 6 months of life, and it provides quality of life care, focusing on the individual who's nearing the end of their life and what's most important to them. August 3rd, the event itself is
Okay, back on the video live stream here. We have a couple of minutes. We've got the Bloomberg Financial Market Minute coming up in a moment. And then we'll have to get back to some of our news items. But first, I was asking if you saw my mouth moving on the video live stream. I was asking, what do I call you, Dr. Tomasi?
Just call me Marco.
Can I call you Dr.
Yeah.
Tomasi? Dr. Zhivago? No,
Marco's
Marco.
fine, yeah.
Marco, you lived in D.C. area for probably 8 years. Lived in the Falls Church area. That's conveniently located between the FBI and the CIA, right?
Yes, it is.
What was your commute like? No, I'm just kidding. Coming back to this area, you must love the traffic here.
Oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah, there's no traffic.
Exactly.
It's
We
beautiful.
have that, 5 minutes of rush hour when everything gets out at 4
Yeah.
p.m. on Main Street.
I consider that a moment of reflection time.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, I'm in my car. I'm gonna look around, see if there are any other cars that I like. But what do you appreciate most about what the museum can bring to this community?
You know, this community has such a rich history. It's a unique history, even to coastal areas in Michigan. Between our history with the lighthouse and the Lighthouse Depot, to the different businesses that have started here. Obviously, everyone knows Whirlpool.
Yeah.
But we've had so many other businesses. And yes, there's Vail, Hanson, Lico. Those are still here, but there's other ones. Cooper Wells used to be one of the largest employers in St. Joe. And they still exist today. In fact, their historian has been reaching out to us over the last year for information getting up on their anniversary.
Oh.
It was one of the largest employers. They did textiles, they did clothing. They really made their name making that long underwear that the lumberjacks would wear. It was the first performance underwear that would, that you could
Was
wear.
it really performance underwear though?
Well, at the time.
Okay.
But they exist today. They left in the 50s, and in the 70s, they renamed the business after their number one product, Jockey.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
Jockey was founded here in St. Joe and was here for quite a while. In fact, where the Whirlpool Compass Fountain is now, that's where their factory was.
Okay.
Down below the bluff.
Just right there on the where all the.
It was huge. They had multiple buildings. They even had a dormitory for young ladies who would work at the company. They had a dormitory to house them. So you would basically live down below the bluff and then walk across the street to work.
That would be amazing. Yeah. Huh. And it was all there.
All down there. It was quite the industrial area down there, aside from the Silver Beach amusement park. There was there for quite a while.
Was what's now Jockey?
Yeah.
Was that where the amusement park stuff was?
No, that was closer to the bluff.
Okay.
The amusement park was down right where Silver Beach is now.
Okay.
And they had a boardwalk. They had the ballroom. They had all sorts of amusement rides. And then even out into the lake, they had a toboggan that went out into the water.
Huh.
And they had this water swing, giant metal structure out there.
We'll talk more about that in a moment. I want to hear some of these stories.
Sure.
The audience does too. So we'll talk about that in a moment on the WSJM Morning Show. We're going to get some news coming up in just a minute. It's the, 7:27 right now. We're having way too much fun on the video live stream. If you missed any of that conversation that we just had with Dr. Marco Tomasi from the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center, it's available to you on Facebook. You can go to our WSJM page on Facebook and check out the video. We're going to continue it for the next half hour here and continue that conversation about what's happening at the museum. Some of the stories that you were telling just a moment ago, Jockey, the underwear company, used to be here, making long underwear under what name?
Cooper Wells.
Cooper Wells, and they're coming up on an anniversary. They're celebrating themselves. Do you know what anniversary they're celebrating?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, it's probably 100 something or like that.
Yeah,
it's not early. We've got the sun up. We've got 60 some odd degrees, but
yeah.
Anyway, we want to hear some more of those stories that you're talking about. What's your favorite story about the area? History-wise,
ooh, that's a tough one.
I know it's like asking your favorite child, I'm sure, but
yes,
maybe one of the most favorite.
Well, one of my most favorite was actually the one we were just talking about. Cooper Wells fascinates me.
Yeah,
because they were such a large employer here, because they had that dormitory to house the young unmarried women. Right there below the bluff, prime real estate now.
Sure,
you imagine being, you're a young lady. You've got a job and you've got a housing right next to the beach.
Sweet.
And so, it was a factory. And yes, we all know back in the day, factory life was what it was.
Working conditions, right?
Yeah, early 1900s. But actually, that's amazing. They gave them housing in a prime location. And obviously, it's a company that's doing well. It's still surviving today. It just unfortunately left St. Joe and Benton Harbor long ago.
Yeah. And you think about Jockey, you don't think about St. Joseph.
Yes.
So they should be. So we invented underwear. That's great. Maybe not that. We'll come back and continue our conversation with Dr. Marco Tomasi of the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center here in St. Joseph. Right now, we're looking at a forecast today of mostly sunny skies, a high around 78. If you've not been outside yet this morning, it is beautiful. It's gorgeous out there because the sun's out, the temperatures are cooler. We're in the lower 60s, and the humidity has said goodbye for a moment. We'll see what else happens. It is the WSJM Morning Show. Thanks for listening.
Campaign. ABC's Rachel Scott with more on why it's a first in a lot of ways.
So there will be no studio audience. The candidates' microphones will also only be turned on when it is their turn to speak. You have two of the oldest candidates in history to ever compete for the White House. This will also be the first time we were seeing a sitting president of the United States debate a former president of the United States. And of course, you have this conviction of former President Donald Trump. All of that is going to make this debate something unlike anything we've ever seen before.
The Supreme Court will issue more rulings today. They have 10 to go before the end of their term. A Boeing whistleblower alleging that holes were drilled in the wrong places on the 787 planes when they were being manufactured. Boeing says it did a thorough review and found there were no safety issues. A pair of giant pandas on their way to the San Diego Zoo is part of a continuing conservation partnership between the U.S. and China. This is ABC News.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
And taking a look at some of the local news that we're following for you from the WSJM Newsroom, we do not comment on market rumors or speculation. That's the response from Whirlpool Corporation to reports of a potential buyout led by German company Bosch. As we reported to you yesterday, there's word that Whirlpool Corporation might be the target of an acquisition bid by the engineering group Robert Bosch. We'll tell you more about that coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. The Berrien County Sheriff's Department says a girl reported missing out of Benton Township on Sunday has been found and found safe. The Sheriff's Department put out word Wednesday afternoon asking for the public's help in finding the missing juvenile. She had last been seen at the bus station at Nickerson Avenue and M139 on Sunday morning. The girl had been waiting for her mother, but surveillance video showed her leaving with a man and woman after talking with the man. Sheriff's Department now says after media coverage of the incident, it received a tip that led the investigation to the city of South Haven. Detectives were able to find the girl and reunite her safely with her family. The department thanks the South Haven Police Department, Van Buren County Marine Patrol, and the South Haven Beach Safety Unit for helping locate the girl. It also thanks members of the public who submitted their tips. And also, Michigan State Police are seeking to prevent targeted acts of violence with the agency's new Stop a Plot campaign. Stop a Plot includes a new web page that details the warning signs and risk factors to look for, ways to submit confidential tips, and resources to help someone who might be at risk. We'll tell you more about that program. It's coming up in our WSJM newscast at 8 o'clock this morning. We're going to continue our conversation in just a couple of minutes with Dr. Marco Tomasi from the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center. If you're missing any of that, you can check it out again. We have the video. It's going to be available on our Facebook page. We're streaming live now until 8 o'clock, so you can still tune in there. Just go to Facebook, YouTube, or X, type in WSJM, and you can see it there. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
The Michigan News Network.
I'm Beth Fisher. Michigan lawmakers have passed an $83 billion state budget early this morning after an all-night session. It would provide $409 million in funding for special projects and a hike in funding for universities. Legislators also approved an education.
Okay, taking a look at our video live stream comments today. We've got Teresa there. Teresa Yor says, good morning, Marco. Bill Dollar is there. He's afraid. Bill says he's afraid I have to go there. He wouldn't leave. He's afraid to go to your museum because he loves history. So you've already sold him on it.
Excellent.
And hopefully if you see Bill there, you can get him out after a few hours. What time you close? What are your hours of operation? Days and week and hours?
So we're open Thursdays 2 to 7 p.m.
Okay.
Fridays 2 to 7 p.m. And we also with that have a happy hour from 5 to 7 where you can actually come in, get a beverage, and then wander through the exhibits and explore with a beer, wine, or cocktail in hand, or just sit in the ballroom or out in the garden and just relax. It's mellow. It's got that museum vibe, so it's kind of quiet. And then on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a happy hour from 2 to 5. And then Sundays from noon to 5.
Okay, so basically Thursday through Sunday.
Yes.
You're open. Have you thought about different hours of different days of the week?
We have, and this is actually an expansion. When I first came on, we were only open Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
And then last summer, we were Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This summer, we've added on Thursday. We do also, people can schedule private tours. We will fire up the museum and bring in staff for that. And we've also shifted the hours later on Thursday and Friday because it gives folks a chance to get off work and come on in or grab the kids and bring them with.
Yeah, and that happy hour aspect of it, that's fun.
It is. Years ago, the Heritage Board went and got a liquor license because they were hosting a lot of weddings at that time in the ballroom. Well, so we have a liquor license. The in thing tends to be the barns right now. We are very much not a barn, but let's use it and make it social. And it is also kind of the inspiration out of being in DC. You can go down to the museums on the National Mall and get an adult beverage and check out exhibits.
Yeah, they do that. And that's one of the other things we were talking about while we were between breaks here is the museums in Washington, D.C. You're talking about world-class museums, the Smithsonian's and whether they're the museums or the zoo, and they're absolutely free. And the collections are second to none. So having the access to those museums, that they're there at all, is fantastic. Thanks to a great British individual who bequeathed a lot of money at some point, and it turned from one thing into many things, the Smithsonian, and a magazine, which is kind of fun to read. But what do you find challenging from a financial aspect for the museum?
Well, it's a nonprofit, and we're a private nonprofit. We don't have public money coming in. We don't have taxes or anything coming in supporting us. So when you run a nonprofit, you're constantly, folks go, well, are you worried about money? Yes, I work at a nonprofit. I'm constantly trying to get money in, and we really are driven by donations or writing grants, and just the generosity of others helping us out to keep it going. We don't charge admission for the museum. It's free to come in. If you schedule a private tour of the museum, it's generally led by one of our historians, somebody on staff. So donations are very important to us. Sharing, developing these exhibits. Exhibits are not cheap. These production companies, they fabricate everything for us. They don't do it for free.
Right.
They charge us a lot. Even when we do the lighthouse tours, while you can get to the main floor for free. We do charge to go up.
Right.
We have to pay for insurance.
Yes.
That's
an
the pier
important
is not
thing.
designed as a public place, even though we all congregate. I mean, I grew up here. We all congregate on the pier. Insurance is an arm and a leg. And so we have to recoup some money to make sure that we don't sink the entire organization by doing this and sharing this history with everyone. So yes, donations.
Donations, please.
Yes.
Okay, we'll come out. We'll give you another opportunity to ask for donations in just a moment. It is this is Dr. Marco Tomasi with the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center. What's your doctorate in?
My doctorate is actually in psychology.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
See, that's why I feel like I've been analyzed this whole morning. No, we'll be right back and talk more about the museum and Cultural Center in just a moment. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Even better.
Mostly sunny skies today. A little bit cooler. Winds will be out of the north and the northeast. That's going to keep our humidity down and temperatures down as well. Inland, we're talking low 70s. At the beaches, upper 60s to near 70 degrees. We will see big waves at the beaches as well for today. Partly cloudy tonight. We'll drop down to 57. And tomorrow, back up near 80. We'll see a chance of rain by Friday evening. I'm meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
And it's 7:39, clear skies outside, and the lack of humidity is beautiful. I don't know how my guest feels about that this morning, though. Humidity and a museum, those things, you got to worry about humidity.
Oh,
is high humidity a good thing or bad thing?
That's a bad thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
We've got a lot of documents papers, older items. So we have to keep it regulated very much, especially in our archives.
Okay.
We have thermal barriers in there. We have humidity sensors all around the whole museum, and we're constantly watching it. It's temperature and humidity, preserving those items and keeping them in tip-top shape so that we can share them and continue to study them.
Yeah. What is the most, so thinking about Nicolas Cage movie here, what's the most valuable thing in the museum?
Probably our Fresnel lenses.
Oh, tell us about that.
They are the two lenses. They were made in Europe over a century ago. They stood for about a century in our inner and outer lights, the two lighthouses.
Okay.
And then they came out and restored, and they're on display at the Heritage on the upper level.
Okay.
You can go and see those. So it's either those. Some of these things you really can't put a dollar value on, but although the insurance company makes me every year, but it's those. And then also we have an original Truscott boat. Truscott was a wooden boat and ship manufacturer in the area, one of several.
Okay.
And we have one of their, it's a smaller one, so we could get it into the museum.
Okay.
But it was built in 1897 and it's on display in our lower level. And we have a whole exhibit on the shipbuilding industry that was in St. Joe and Benton Harbor.
Fascinating. I can't wait to visit. I've not been yet. Can't wait to visit and also take a lighthouse tour at some point as well. But we're talking with Dr. Marco Tomasi from the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center in St. Joseph. You've been there, what, a year and a half?
About a year and a half, yeah.
What kind of programs do you have there now?
Well, for our best program is our free lecture series.
Okay.
This year, we've got at least one a month. Sometimes we have two. Coming up in July, that lecture, we've got a speaker coming in from the Studebaker Museum who's going to share the history of that company that was run right out of South Bend. So relatively local, not St. Joe, Benton Harbor, but pretty close. It's closer than Detroit.
Still a fascinating history.
Fascinating history. So if you're a car buff, a manufacturing buff, just a history buff, a local buff, come on in. It's free. It's led off by happy hour. All our lectures start with a 1 hour happy hour starting from 6 to 7. And then the presentations start at 7 in our ballroom. And it's they're really great talks. In July, we're going to have Dr. Dennis Szymanski come in. And he's been a longtime board member, a longtime community member. He's pretty vocal. A lot of people have heard what he's had to say. And so he's going to give his insight on what the changes he's seen in our community and our organization over the decades.
Yeah.
And then we have another one every year. We started it last year, and it's called the Emerging Historian Showcase. So our summer interns. And this year I'm adding in, I've got a grad student who's running lighthouse operations for us. She's going to come too. And it's really their adventures in public history, everything they've learned. Our intern is from the University of Michigan this year.
Okay.
And she's spending her summer mostly working in the archives, answering research requests and working on projects for us there. But then she also goes out to the lighthouse. And so it's a lot of little vignettes of, hey, I found this item and I had to do research on it. And this is a story about it. Or here's another story I found fascinating. And so it just goes through there. And for you have a short attention span, it's a great presentation for you because it's little tiny stories about St. Joe and Benton Harbor history.
So we've talked about St. Joseph, Benton Harbor stories, historical stories that you tell there. Any come to mind immediately? Benton Harbor.
Benton Harbor, really, your Opera House fire.
Yeah.
And what really, I grew up here. I'm very familiar with the fireman sculpture that's in St. Joe.
Yeah.
But never really understood what was it for.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't. And I used to coach track and cross country for one of the local high schools. And I mean, it's right on the running routes. And it's like, what is this statue about? And it's like, well, there was this giant fire and it brought in departments from all across the area. And several firefighters from St. Joe and Benton Harbor lost their lives fighting this giant fire on Main Street in Benton Harbor. And it's just one of those things that's kind of gets lost in the shuffle. It's like, okay, well, it's a cool sculpture.
Why is it there? Right.
And sharing that with folks, it's, that was actually part of past trivia nights where it's like, hey, you guys all know this statue? And they're like, yeah. What does it commemorate?
And nobody knew.
We had one group knew. But group. It was a lot of crickets.
There's always one group that's a smarty pants.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's good. The exhibits that you have on display currently.
Right now, we just debuted 2 exhibits in May. One is a traveling exhibit called An Artist's an artist at the water's edge, and it's about a artist who grew up in St. Joe and fell in love with the lake. He actually went to St. Joe High School. He was the editor of the yearbook. Went off, was in World War II, where he drew maps and worked on publications for the Army. Came out, went to college, became a political cartoonist. Then the next part of his career, he worked in advertising and then eventually was a teacher.
Wow.
But the whole time he was an artist and an author. And St. Joe, Benton Harbor, Lake Michigan, weigh in heavily in his art. And even if you can't see our lighthouse in every painting, which it shows up in several, and even the Wickham and everything, there's times in the stories like, oh, here's a picture of a sailboat that he painted. Well, that was his sailboat from Datchell Carter, which is another shipbuilding company in St. Joe and Benton Harbor that he worked at. And then that was his boat growing up. Or, hey, here's a freighter that he saw as a kid. He lived down on Ridgeway by Tuscarnia. And so it made a heavy impact on his life. So that's up. We've got that going. We've got an exhibit on called Fatal Crossing about a mysterious disappearance of an airplane in 1950. It's shown up in a lot of shows on Discovery Channel and whatnot. So that whole mystery
is the one that they still haven't found.
They still haven't found. They believe it's off of St. Joe and Benton Harbor. They've gone with sonar and everything. Still cannot find the actual plane.
Wow.
That anniversary was actually this past Monday from its disappearance. We have the Fresnel lenses that were those beautiful lenses that projected the light out into the lake from the lighthouse for over a century. We have a digital series called The Faces of Southwest Michigan. And what we do is we ask, hey, people, send in your historic photos, send in your stories that match the theme. The first theme was Winter Wonderland that we had over the winter.
Yes.
Right now we have Blossom Time.
Nice.
And so it's a combination. We've got videos of the parade of recently as 2023, but also the 1930s. And photos from before the parade even started, when it was just the festival and they would drive through the orchards.
Wow.
The queens from over the year. That's hilarious. A lot of beehives and there had to be a lot of hairspray going on. Probably bad for the ozone.
Yeah.
But
they were fancy.
They're fancy.
Yeah.
So that's there. We're getting ready for our next one that will come out in August called Back to School. So if you have those back to school photos from across the decades, send those in. There'll be a link. Be a link on our website soon. There's going to be a link in the next newsletter that comes out in July. And that, let's see. And then down on the lower level, we've got another exhibit that started in May about the Heath Company.
Oh,
a Heath Kit. And it's been crazy popular because so many people either worked at Heath Kit or in Heath Company, which was located up on Hilltop on Lakeshore Drive, long time here, but also had Heath Kits. Okay. And a lot of retired engineers out of Whirlpool, I got into engineering because of Heath Kit.
For those who don't know, including myself, what's a Heath Kit?
A Heath Kit was a home kit to build your own electronics. Before electronics got really, really cheap, relatively speaking, it was cheaper if you just invested some labor and you built it yourself. And they had really great marketing and extremely good instructions. This wasn't like IKEA instructions where it's like, what's the little stick man doing?
Right.
Detailed, written with diagram instructions, and it made it very accessible. They actually started off as an airplane company, and then that became too expensive for them, so they became an airplane kit company.
Wow!
Their founder actually died in an airplane crash. Yes. Yeah. And then it was sold off. That gentleman didn't do well, and a gentleman bought it and moved it to the St. Joe area. He actually died in a plane crash too. They got out of the plane business and they got into electronics kits. And so you could build a TV, you could build a radio, you could build depth finders for your boat. And so we have a lot of these items on display, but also the story that goes with the company.
Wow. It's such a rich history in this area. How do you curate all this? What do you decide? How do you decide what's going to happen next?
It's a team effort. There's a lot of us working behind the scenes going, what do we want to do next? What can we fund?
Yeah.
That's the other thing, funding.
Yeah.
What do we have the money to do? Even the Heath exhibit, I had to put out a call because it was not budgeted for this year, but a couple of our historians were looking at updating in the cataloging of our Heath collection that was nicely donated just before COVID. And I'm like, this would make a great exhibit. Right. And so they came up with an idea. I go, well, it's not in the budget for this year. So let me put out a call on one of my newsletters and on the website saying, hey, do people want to donate to this, and we'll make it happen. And they did. We got the funds and we put it together, and it's on display. And actually, one of those historians is still on our staff, and the other was our last Upton Fellow. We have a fellowship through the University of Notre Dame that's funded by the Upton Foundation.
Okay.
And so we had a PhD student and one of our historians got together. They did the bulk of that work. I got to do a little copy editing on the writing and whatnot, and pretend to be the general audience going, well, how will this go? Show me the layout. And it was a lot of fun to put that together.
That's amazing. We're going to wrap up our conversation here with Dr. Marco Tomasi. It's been from the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center in St. Joseph. It's been a fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed talking with you. What does the Museum and Cultural Center need? You talk about donations.
Donations. Well, we were talking before. I think we were on the live stream.
Right.
We are a private nonprofit. The tax dollars do not fund us. We need donations. That's really what drives us, is folks making donations. You can donate right from our website, but it's really the charity of others. We have free admission to our lectures. We had free admission to our museum. So really the revenue comes in through the generosity of others, whether it's a donation or us writing grants. And that's what keeps us going. So to keep going and keep developing these exhibits, we just need folks to support us so we can share the stories of St. Joe and Benton Harbor.
And you can donate by going to your website. You can sign up for the newsletter to find out what's happening at the museum, Heritage Museum and Cultural Center. Do you need volunteers? How are you doing on the volunteer line?
I can always use more volunteers.
Okay. Right.
We, especially Lighthouse docents, and we'll train you up. We'll give you the history. And actually, when you speak to the docents, it's not a script you memorize. We arm them with lots of facts and everything, but everyone you talk to, they latch on to a different pieces of it. Okay. So it's a little bit different version of the history. I mean, the facts are correct,
right?
But some gravitate more to the maritime, some gravitate to the people, some are more into the architecture. And so you get a little bit different perspective on our history from them, but also we can use museum docents. We even have a high school volunteer program where you can greet people as they come in, answer questions, help guide them. If I want to see the shipbuilding exhibit, they'll guide you to what part of the museum that's in. And so often you'll come in on a Friday and you'll see a kid in a red Heritage t-shirt. That if they have a red t-shirt on, they're one of our high school volunteers.
Nice. Dr. Marco Tomasi with the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center. The website is theheritagemcc.org. theheritagemcc.org. You can find about what the current exhibits are, the lecture series that's coming up, the how to donate, how to volunteer, how to contact them, the hours they do. Anything else we need to mention today?
Lighthouse tours.
Lighthouse tours. Those are incredibly popular. So more on that. Thank you, Dr. Tomasi, Marco, for coming in today and being one of the friends on the show.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Anytime. We'll talk more. It's the WSJM Morning Show. News is coming up in a few minutes.
Barbets. There you'll get your flats. Proven winners at roadside stand even better than this van.
All right. Thanks to those of you who have tuned in on the video live stream today. Thank you, Dr. Tomasi, Marco. That was fun.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't was this painful? How did it feel?
This was fine.
All right, good. You're used to this stuff.
I used to have a podcast.
Did you really? What was your podcast?
It was the Red Arrow Health and Wellness podcast. It was just something fun to do during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have your own studio at the house?
I do.
Okay. What do you use? Microphone, mixer, all that? Software?
Yes. It was just stuff
Adobe or anything
stuff
like
we got off of Amazon. My wife and I did it. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. So it did it for a while. And then, of course, we got busy afterwards.
If you want to do it again, we've got a whole podcast set up here and everything else, and radio stations and internets and stuff like that. So let us know. All right. Well, thanks for the information about the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center today. Again, go to the website if you want more information on that. We've got more coming up, the Moody on the Market update, and then we'll wrap up the live stream for today. But thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
At
that easy. Many fake pills contain fentanyl, and an amount small enough to fit on the tip of a pencil can be lethal. So listen, before buying pills from social media, think again. Learn more at mcgruffpsa.org and go for real. Brought to you by USPTO and the National Crime Prevention Council.
Hey, it's Johnny Reinhardt, and my friends at Renaissance Athletic Club would love to see you at 501 Graham Avenue in Benton Harbor. Stop by, learn more about what it takes to become a member, and also learn more about the Young Athletes Sports Performance Camp that they have going on. If you have a young athlete that wants to raise their game between the ages of 10 and 18, you can join RAC for an engaging sports performance camp of skill building and camaraderie at their 2024 Sports Performance Camp. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned player, there's something for everyone. Get ready to sweat and shine with the action-packed sessions every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There's a new camp starting up in July that you could be a part of. And then there's another one starting a little bit later towards the end of July into August. So this camp will focus on plyometrics, speed, agility, strength, and recovery training, carefully designed to enhance your athletic ability. Space is limited, though, only 12 athletes per age group. Sign up. You can go to the front desk at 501 Graham Avenue at Renaissance Athletic Club in Benton Harbor, or you can email Rich Braden, rbraden@racbh.com.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
That was a fun conversation. We had Dr. Marco Tomasi in to talk about the Heritage Museum and the Cultural Center in St. Joseph. If you've not had a chance yet, please do tour. Go to the website for more information on what hours they're open. It's basically Thursday through Sunday, and they have the hours posted on their website there. They also have the Lighthouse tours that go on all summer long. It's time now for the Moody on the Market update. Moody on the Market is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And just talking a little bit more about a story that we first brought you here on the morning show yesterday about Whirlpool and the possible buyout bid from Robert Bosch Company. Whirlpool's stock price jumped about 17% Wednesday, almost $15 per share, closing at $102 per share after widely respected news agency Reuters reported that Bosch, the huge German multi-industry firm, was considering a takeover bid for Whirlpool. That means, hypothetically, Bosch would offer to acquire all of Whirlpool's shares at a price significantly higher than that at which it's currently trading. Small premium offers are generally rejected by corporate boards. However, big premium offers are sometimes accepted, with boards citing their responsibility to maximize shareholder value. And at that point, the target firm ceases to independently exist and becomes a subsidiary or division of the larger entity. Now, the shareholders collect their checks and many go away happy. That may not be the case with employees of the firm that's typically the target of the acquisition. This is all hypothetical, but in this case, we're talking about Whirlpool Corporation. So what's likely to happen if some sort of deal is struck between Whirlpool and Bosch? And one of our reporters went into this question, and they've posted the story fully at moodyonthemarket.com. I'll give you a teaser here. It says the answer is that it's way too early to tell. If the Bosch offer is deemed serious, the Whirlpool board of directors would likely fully investigate the details while pushing for a higher price than whatever the first offer is. That's just business, and it's been known to work well at times. And if the potential acquiring firm sees great value in the target firm. So it's not hard to see that Whirlpool and its family of brands would be very attractive to any company, including Bosch. Appliance industry sources tell us that Bosch makes good appliances, especially the dishwashers. However, relatively few respondents say Bosch, when they're asked to name a leading appliance brand for the home. Many answer Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and the like when they're asked about leading brands in the home appliance industry. So Bosch looking to increase their footprint. Whirlpool basically staying mum on the question. They say we don't talk about rumors that come on the market or not. So there is the latest Moody on the Market update, and your Moody on the Market update is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. You can call IMS today. They are your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. We've got a lot more of the WSJM morning show coming up. Also, the weather forecast for today, it's going to be pretty nice. If you've not had the opportunity to be out there yet, the humidity has subsided, which feels really good. And then also the sun is back. We're not going to have anything like what we saw a couple of days ago, when we had the lightning storms and the 11,000 people in Southwest Michigan without power for a period of time. But it is going to be a very nice day. We'll have more on that, and then the local news. It's all coming up right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. For the first time ever, a sitting U.S. president will be debating a former U.S. president for another term in the White House.